Barry Goldwater, when running for president in 1964, made a famous statement: extremism in defense of liberty is no vice. And it would seem that the Torah agrees with that sentiment. In this week's Torah portion, we are told that Pinchas, the Kohen, saw an act of flagrant immorality being done in the midst of the camp of Israel, and he became so incensed that he took the law into his own hands. He took a spear and he killed the sinners on his own. And what was God's judgment of this deed? God seems to approve. The Torah says, Pinchas has averted my anger from the house of Israel. And then the Torah goes on to tell us that God gave Pinchas the Briti Shalom, my covenant of peace. So he seems to be rewarding Pinchas for this act of extremism. But that's not how many of the biblical commentators read this. The biblical commentator, the Abarbanel, says, you know why God had to give Pinchas a covenant of peace? Because he was afeard that the relatives of those who he had killed would come and seek revenge. And God sought to protect Pinchas, not necessarily to reward him. But there's a commentary by the Netziv, Rabbi Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, that makes an incredible impact on the day in which we are living. The Netziv tells us that God gave Pinchas a covenant of peace because he feared that once Pinchas took an act of extremism to its ultimate conclusion, he would go on doing it and again. God gave him the covenant of peace so that he could become at peace with himself and not avenge on others. I think we should think about this. I think Senator Jeff Sessions should think about this when he justifies taking away children from their parents, because that's the law. That's a very extreme understanding of the law. And who knows what comes next once we start thinking this way. And then there's the owner of the Red Hen, the woman who owns that restaurant in Virginia where they asked Sarah Huckabee Sanders to leave because they disagree with her politics. That's an act of extremism. And once we start doing this, who knows where that can lead? So all of us as Americans could use a covenant of peace, being at peace with ourselves and at peace with others. Barry Goldwater said, extremism in defense of liberty is no vice, but it's also not always wise. Let's learn. Shabbat Shalom.